Welcome to another session of maintenance on my 2012 Thor Hurricane. Today we're going to change the differential fluid. First thing you do, get out your trusty manual and look in there, and it'll tell you what you have and what you need. And frankly, if you can't find it, I would just call Thor and ask him where it is and which one it was. For example, on my book, it shows that there's 4 different possible rear ends for these coaches. Mine happens to be the Dana 80, which takes 4 quotes of fluid. I found that out by asking the guys over at Thor, and they volunteered that real quick. Went over to my friendly Walmart and picked up some 75W140 full synthetic Valvoline. They stock that. That's a standard item for them. The Valvoline product is very good, but you could use anything as long as it's synthetic. Picture of my coach getting ready to be worked on. I'm going to slide right underneath behind that rear wheel and go to work. Here's what the diff looks like. And I started by breaking free all of the bolts. They're in there pretty good. They're at 40 foot-pounds or 45 foot-pounds according to the book. And so they've been in there a long time, so give them a good tug and carefully and pull out the bolts. But if you'll notice in this next slide here, up at the very top, I left 2 upper bolts. I loosened them up several turns just so that they would be free, but I didn't take them all the way out. You want to leave those so that when you're ready, you can drop that panel off there, but not until you're ready. Once you've got all the bolts out, you can carefully start to lift about where my finger is. That's a good spot to do it. You can use, like in my case, I used a small screwdriver and just gently pried it underneath that cover. Gentle is the operative word. You don't want to get too crazy. So I've got my bucket underneath there and just gently lift it until it starts to run out. There's only a gallon in there, so take your time and just let it drain. Once it's done, pull your panel off. Man, it needs a little work. You can see they don't use gaskets anymore. Rather, they use silicone products around the edge of that thing. That's what it looks like when you take it off. And you'll see down there's a little round donut. Well, that's the drain plug. Let me zoom in on that a little bit. Now, that drain plug, you'll see that gray donut-looking thing. That's actually metal deposits, little fine metal shavings that have deposited themselves on the magnets. You can clean those off when you take the plug out. Do a little cleaning work. Now, this is the hardest part of this whole job, is to get that thing prepped to go back together again. You're going to want to super clean that thing up really nice. I used a little mineral spirits and a rag, and here I have a little scraper, and just gently clean off those surfaces. Gently. You don't want to scratch anything. That's what it looks like when you're ready to go back, and it's super clean and nice and tidy. Little mineral spirits will clean that right up, and just take your time on getting those edges super clean. Don't scratch them. Take your time with it. Used a little bit of brake clean. Brake clean is a great product because it does not leave any residue. And when you're ready to put it back, spray that down really good and wash all of those edges where you're going to put the silicone back on there again. Now, the factory uses a silicone gasket sealer. They don't use paper gaskets anymore, and this is just fine. Permatex makes this particular one here. I use this one, and this is specifically for gear oil. It's going to work really well for you on that. And you want to apply that right to the cover. Take a minute while you're cleaning, and I just run my wire wheel on the bolts just to clean up the threads really good before I put them back in there again. And there's another thing I did too, just to make it easier because I work by myself, is I made up a couple of studs. Let me show you what the studs look like. They're just 3/8 bolts that I just had in stock, and I cut them off and smoothed out the end a little bit, and I can insert those into the bare holes, because remember, you're going to put the sealer on the gasket, on the cover itself, not on the base plate. And here I'll show you where I put them. I just staggered them. If you look carefully, you'll see one up about 11 o'clock and one about 4 o'clock, and put them in there so that when I go to put that cover back on with the new fresh sealer on there, it's just going to line right up and drop right in place on those studs. And then once it's setting on there, you can put the rest of the bolts back in, and there they are. That's what the rest of the bolts put back in there again. And those bolts are set at 45 foot-pounds, according to the factory book. Well, that's it at the moment. Oh, here, you want to refill it when you're done. I'm going to let that set up and dry 24 hours, and tomorrow I'll come back and put 4 of these in there. These little flex seals are super good. They work really well on cleaning up that, or putting the fluid back in there again. So anyway, thanks for your attention, and I'll talk to you soon.